it's probably gonna suck. And I was gonna put that on the title, but I was afraid YouTube would be like, "Oh, suck," that
Hmm.
it's gonna be is bad, is the bottom line, right? Everyone has these visions of it playing out like Little House on the Prairie, right? Well, one, there were some crappy episodes that weren't as fun and happy as you might think, but two, people back then had a long time of learning and building up skills and getting used to a way of life and mentally preparing for things. They weren't people who were typically like addicted to their cell phone and their, staring at Netflix all day, for 7 hours. I don't even think people watch Netflix anymore because they're all watching 30-second shorts. We have the attention span of nothing, But anyway, I think that there are some hard realities that people aren't going to be prepared for, and that's what I wanted to talk about, because I think if we mentally put ourselves in a place where we're expecting what might happen, and also what steps we could maybe take to prevent those things from overwhelming us, right? Kevin, thoughts?
Yeah, well, I mean, I do hear a lot of people like, oh, I've got food saved up for 15 years if the nuclear apocalypse comes and it's nuclear winter, I'm ready. But I don't know about that. You know what I mean? Starving to death isn't the only issue that you might have to worry about, and you can't fight off cholera, for
Oh,
example, with
right. Well,
a heavily armed militia.
yeah, well, that's it. Oh, I have lots of bullets, so I'll just take everybody else's food. Because
Hmm.
you assume that everybody around you has lots of food that's gonna, kill.
Right, right,
Yeah,
and they don't have lots of bullets.
yeah, right? Exactly. I know where I live, there's a lot of bullets.
Hmm.
Um, one of the things I think the version of, the what is it? Teotihuacan or whatever, the end of the
Hmm.
world as we know it, however you
Yeah.
say it. I should probably have all these slogans, memorized and whatever, but being King Prepper, that's I think my new title is King Prepper. I
Self-proclaimed.
listen. There's a song called "King of Turd Mountain" that's my
Uh-huh.
favorite, and makes me want to be King Prepper. It's kind of the
All right.
same thing, You know how it is.
Yeah.
So anyway, the way I see it playing out is I think that things are going to be just crappy and hard. Um, think like the Depression. I think having something like the Depression, or shit, like you remember like when like even in Red Dawn, right? I'm not talking about the cool happy guys outside of town. I'm saying
Hmm.
the guys in town where everybody's, confined to town, and that's probably not a good scenario or a good way to be. But I think we're more likely to like have that kind of halfway there apocalypse, right? Where, oh, there's no toilet paper. Oh, there's no, where you're setting up the home bidet. I'm just saying,
Hmm.
you have options. It's just you need to plan for those options.
That's
Um,
right.
there's no more bananas at the grocery store. What if there was a coffee shortage or it had to be rationed? Imagine a world where you had to live on 1 cup of coffee a day.
Oh, Jesus.
And I'm talking about like literally a cup, not like a cup.
Not like a
Not like
cup.
yeah. Imagine that world, Kevin. Nobody wants that.
Mm-mm.
And that's it. I mean, even on Little House in the Prairie, he got his coffee in the morning. His wife's like, "Hey, I got you. We got this." 'Cause they found a way to distribute things, locally and whatever to some extent. We had trains and cool things. And even, when they packed out, when they go for the big moving west journey, they loaded that wagon up with sugar and flour and, these things, these staples were there. Salt, right? Imagine a world
Hmm.
with no salt, Kevin. These are the things you gotta prepare for. And
Right.
I don't know. So, what are some of the bad things that kinda can come up unexpected, and what might we maybe do? I mean, you mentioned cholera. That doesn't sound good.
No, I mean, there's a lot of illnesses like that, and I think Westerners like us get comfortable with the idea that you turn on the tap and clean water that's not going to make you sick comes out, and you flush the toilet and all the poos and everything just leave. It's gone. Don't even have to think about it anymore. You know, and the United States does have a really good infrastructure. Cell
Relative,
phone
yes.
towers and power lines, and even like telephone lines. You know what I mean? You can still have one of those phones that hook into the wall and everything. You know, um, and it's really comfortable. It's really nice having those things
I
and
think
having them available.
yes, and I think people were starting to realize that after Hurricane Helene and this other stuff going on in Florida. What's the
Hmm.
other one? What's
Asheville
hurricane
and
number 2?
and yeah, I don't remember what that was
Whatever,
called.
one
Yeah.
of those names, right?
Mhm.
So, I'm told I'm too dismissive. We got a comment about how I talked about having a good time at prepper camp while people were suffering under Helene, and how dare I have a good time when people
Oh,
suffer. So,
who said that?
it was in the comments on YouTube.
Oh,
I don't know. We
oh,
have to
fuck that guy.
I have to have like
Whatever.
a sullen attitude and like hurricane
Yeah.
shame. No,
Oh,
it does
fuck a
though. I mean,
pineapple.
that's the reality is that's why we prepare is to be ready for these things because it turns out Helene, horrible, bad, really shitty for some people. And we're working with people to actually get that straight. So I mean, we're into it. My family, we've actually sent quite a bit and put a lot of supplies together to help out. And because it's something very close to us and we were there, right? It's relative to me. I'm not
Right.
saying everybody in the world needs to feel guilt. We can only take on so much. You can't take on every problem in the world.
Hmm.
That one is personal to me. It's close to me and it's relevant to me. Therefore, I, took action and steps to help people out. But you need to fight the world that you can fight and the thing that's relevant to you. But anyway, with that, we still need to learn because these things keep happening. Remember when Puerto Rico got completely devastated and we're like, oh, that's so horrible. Or Katrina, right? New Orleans
Hmm.
completely devastated. And we're like, oh, but that was the worst thing, and that's never gonna happen again. And then, after Katrina, Puerto Rico got wiped out. And
Right.
after Puerto Rico got wiped out, now, Western North Carolina gets wiped out. It's
Yeah.
these
And
things will
massive
keep happening.
earthquakes in Haiti happened right in there too.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And that's, I mean, these things are gonna happen. And just the same, governments collapse like in Venezuela. People don't remember Venezuela was a great thriving country. I believe Obama used the words, If I could, what make the perfect country, it would be if I had a country, it would be Venezuela or something." Even though he had a country, like
I don't know.
there was
I
something
don't
like,
remember hearing it,
and
but
it was the big thing was because they were thriving because of oil, and
right,
the
because
more the
they
government
had
took
a
it over,
lot of natural resources and they were using them.
and they were kicking ass, and then the government's like, we should be in charge of all that shit, and then that didn't work out so well. It,
Yeah, it went downhill fast.
All right. So anyway, bottom line is things can turn on a dime, and it turns out what is it they say? History repeats itself,
Hmm.
and bad, shitty things happen. When like the depression happened, let's kind of dig in on that. Well, first, cholera. Before we get too far away from it, uh, the wife and I were digging through on her phone, mostly her, and I was sitting there making rude comments or something. But there is a
Just like
vaccine
school,
for
huh?
cholera. Right, right. There's a vaccine for cholera. It's good for about 6 months.
Hmm.
Um, you get that from poos in the water, and it turns out once you get it, you're good for about 3 years. You're kind of immune to
if you
getting it
catch
again.
cholera.
So, hey, things are looking up, right? You just have to get through that horrible. And they say if you're, really the only treatment is getting fluids, they say orally getting fluids into the body. And it's something ridiculous. Like they say, like 10% of your body weight in the first 2 hours.
Yeah,
So
that's about a gallon of water an hour,
they
which
say, yeah, the biggest failure in treatment with cholera is not giving enough, fluids.
mhm,
So that's something to think about. Um, but these are the things you need to be aware of. Like, hey, things could get really shitty and badly. So that's something, hey, we need to prepare for as the individual. I mean, that's as preppers what we do.
yeah.
And
And one of
Kevin,
those
yeah, go ahead.
things about cholera though is you get it from drinking tainted water, which would imply that you don't have a whole lot of access to clean water. So having access to a gallon of water an hour of clean water is not very likely if you get
If
cholera.
you've already got a problem, right?
Right.
That was I was listening to a big thing on that one of our listeners recommended a podcast on nuclear disasters and that kind of thing. There was an episode. I'll see if I can get it in the show notes because it really was informative. And one of the things that FEMA was saying was if you're going to be anywhere near the aftermath of a nuclear disaster, having Pedialyte on shore because radiation poisoning, it's kind of one of the same things. You just go like that. It's bad. They actually had that movie because they let out. I think it's that Fat Man and Little Boy movie or whatever. The one with where the guy actually is handling the in the Manhattan Project the radiation, whatever the plutonium, whatever the heck it
Hmm.
was. It was whatever that sphere is, the big lead
Yeah.
ball that isn't lead, right? Um, and he ends up getting the radiation poisoning and how horrible. Basically, they were talking about. I mean, it was just brutal. It was like the lining in your organs just disintegrates, so you kind of get sepsis because everything inside
Is
you
just
comes
decomposing, huh?
together. And yeah, it just the most brutal things. And it's like, oh yeah, you just don't even want to be near any kind of nuclear. Anybody who looks into it is like, oh, that's something I don't want any part of in any way.
Hmm.
But and that's one of the things. I mean, if we had war with Russia and stuff, I mean, we kind of have to hope for an EMP over some of the alternatives because
Right.
if they just start dropping nukes, it's not going to end well for anybody. And they said, how we have we have missiles to shoot down any nukes coming in. Turns out Russia has like 1,260 nukes or something, is what we think. And we have 44 missiles to shoot them down.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
And
I was just
out of
reading.
our out of our 44, they have a 50 to 55% success rate. So
We only have to like worry about like 1,480 nukes actually hitting. You know.
yeah, you know,
Yeah, I was just actually watching a video about that, and they were saying that they estimate about 25% of the nukes that Russia has wouldn't even launch. Like
okay.
somebody's been stealing the plutonium out of them, selling parts, and
Well, remember we had that story from China where they're taking all the fuel out of the rockets.
yeah,
And, so
whatever. We'll see what happens. I mean, that's not really one that you got to rely on because if you're
no.
actually launching the nukes, then you're not going to get in trouble afterwards. Like, oh, that guy sold. That's old news now.
That's what they always say about like EMP shield. They're like, they sell it, doesn't work. Now, like I
You
said,
ain't going to get your money back.
they do some research, but I'm just saying that is one of those things, or if you
Yeah,
open your 25-year shelf life food storage and
and
it's
it's all
25 years
rotten.
later and they're like, "I- who is that company? Who are you
Yeah,
calling?"
exactly.
That's the problem. I don't know. Kevin's sphere is always dysentery, which is very similar to cholera. It's a different virus, but basically
You
same
get it
type
the
of
same
thing.
way, and the same thing happens.
They say tainted food and
yeah. Now
oh yeah,
one that I always got when I was a kid, like oh, you can't eat that. You're gonna get a salmonella. You're gonna make you
botulism
sick.
too. Yeah.
Botulism, yeah. Salmonella though, not as big of a threat as I thought it was. Like you got a 90% chance of making it. And as long as the world isn't gone to shit and you can go to a hospital, you got a 100% chance of making it. You know what I mean? This is the United States. Like, you can really be reckless as long as everything else is going nice around you. You know what I mean? As long as everything else is going all right, eat those raw eggs. It doesn't matter. You'll be fine. Oh, you got a can of vegetables that's all like bloated and bent out?
Yeah.
You'd be all
That's,
right. It's
that's
just a
like
little
we saw
botulism.
Rocky. I mean, we're pounding those raw eggs. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
They say that like you're pretty safe from a lot of the salmonella and stuff if like you have chickens and that kind of stuff. They say you're kind of exposed to everything, but I don't know. I feel like my chickens probably don't have it because
Yeah, because they look fine. You know what I mean? If you have a bunch of sick chickens that are,
you're
looking
trying to
gross,
squeeze
maybe
some
cook
eggs
your
out.
eggs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
who knows?
just
But
cook your eggs. You'll be all
I
right.
don't know. I just know that they say that when you're handling it and whatever all the time, it's kind of like whatever. Like, who doesn't have a little chicken poo on their eggs every morning? Come on. I mean, really.
You know what I mean? What are you supposed to flavor it with, salt and pepper? Get out of here.
It's the grit, Kevin, the grit. All right. So that's the other thing. So I mean, we did want to talk about cholera and some of the disease. People don't realize how quick that kind of stuff can wipe things out, things that we go to the doctor for and whatever.
Yeah, and that actually did happen in Haiti. There was an outbreak after their big earthquakes. There was a big outbreak of cholera there
Okay.
because there's no infrastructure. There was no access to clean water. And a couple of guys from, I think it was Tibet, were there as aid workers, and they brought the cholera with them and just started giving it out to everybody.
They said that with cholera, humans are the only known carriers. So if you just get rid of all the people, you're good.
Oh, nice. All right. Well, I mean, that's simple.
That and don't have the people just squirting in the river upstream from
Hmm.
where you are is also, a good
Yeah.
a good way to be.
Yeah, I see that in India a lot. They'll just go and hang their butt over a river and take a dump, and then you see 20 feet down there's somebody taking a bath, and 30 feet down from that somebody's scooping a bucket out to go drink.
Go
So
drink. Yeah, I don't know. Boil the water. Let me help you there.
yeah, if somebody's pooping in your water, boil it for sure. All right,
That's the one.
now
It
I know a
wasn't going
lot of
to
people.
just be the poop in the water episode, Kevin.
No, we're gonna move on to something else now. I mean, we'll come back. We'll circle
Circle
back to
back.
it, but.
All right.
So there's this thing that I hadn't heard of until recently, but I know that I was aware of its existence, but it's called accelerationism. Have you ever
Okay.
heard that?
No, I have not. Tell me.
All right. So technically, it's a range of revolutionary and reactionary ideas in left wing and right wing ideologies.
Mm,
Um, Basically, it's a call for drastic intensification of capitalist growth, technological change, and infrastructure sabotage.
ooh,
And so this was like a Charlie Marx game. He didn't invent it, but it's like a Charlie Marx game. It's like a lot of billionaires are playing this game now. And basically, what they're trying to do is saying that we're like on the verge of collapse. So let's push it. Let's speed it up so that when it happens, we can get things back on track again.
mm,
Um,
smart.
which really works out well for billionaires. If you have like massive amounts
Oh,
of capital, that's great. But if you're just
how does
like a
it work for
regular
people
dude
like
that
you
goes
and
to work
me?
every day,
Not so well.
doesn't no, it's not great for you.
Mm,
A lot of starvation, a lot of that sort of stuff. You see it a lot in the like far right wing groups and the far left wing groups. Like um, anarchists and socialists and that sort of gang there. The far ends on either side.
yeah.
you know what they say? You know, they say if you go far enough right, you end up on the left, and if you go far enough left, you end up on the right. It's kind of like along those lines. It's those people right on the edge on both sides that are
The fringe.
into this sort of thing, and it's basically just ramping things up
How do they
to
do that? Do you have examples, or
the idea is
I shouldn't have called you
basically
out?
yeah, it's the idea is basically that you're ramping everything up. You're accelerating everything. And right now, like I think the biggest threat of this is the use of AI.
Mhm.
However, I got this definition from AI,
AI.
so maybe it's all a game that it's playing, some sort of head game it's playing with me. I don't know what this AI is up to, but I think it's nefarious. I don't trust it one bit, man.
That's smart.
Once
Smart.
they hook the AI up to the quantum computers, that's it. We're all fucked. Whoever does that first wins, and everybody else is fucked.
Right. I think I don't know. Like I said, back to the original topic. It's kind of like I think the fantasy is always, oh, I'm gonna have bacon, eggs, and potatoes, and everything's gonna be wonderful for the apocalypse.
Hmm.
Um, but there are nasty people out there. It turns out it's hard to grow things. It
Yeah,
turns out all of a sudden you end up with like wild pigs that come and, eat everything,
eat all
or
your stuff. Yeah,
there's different things out there that make it takes a turn, and people don't prepare for that. Or you have a set plan, but what is it, Mike Tyson with his everybody's got a plan till you get punched in the face?
right,
Well, that's what happens when somebody comes in and steals your solar generator, or somebody comes in and sabotages. You're getting your water from a creek that's on a mountain, and somebody goes and throws a dead animal in the creek upstream to chase you out. You know,
hmm,
that's these are things that actually happen. Things can go wrong, and that's why we plan for redundancy. That's why we plan for and that's the thing, like, as a prepper, it's still gonna suck if things go bad. And, some people are like, "Oh, I'd just rather check out early, I don't even wanna deal with the hard stuff, so why would I prepare?" But that's the thing, when you prepare, it gives you options. And it gives you, you can make the choices and you're in control. And the more you understand what possibilities are out there and what things might, go wrong, you understand how you can prepare for it. Um,
hmm,
one of the big things, everyone's like, oh, everybody was fine 100 years ago. They got by without electricity to every house, no big deal. Well, these people also learned skills that your average person has not learned. And
right,
that's where the whole like prepper mindset kind of comes in is, what new tools do we have that we can take into a crazy future that we
right,
can take care of ourselves? But two, what skills can we learn from the past, and let's start implementing instead of having a bunch of knowledge that we've never really applied, and then in reality we realize we're missing a few steps or things go wrong, or you realize this would have been so much easier had I had this one item with me and I didn't have to think about that. If I had
right,
a bunch of lighters and I didn't have to worry about making my fire from a freaking bow drill or a flint and steel every day. These things kind of you could make life easier. One of
hmm,
the things, they just kind of keep a fire going for forever, right?
right.
That's once you get things, moving, but to maintain a fire with firewood, that takes effort too,
Yeah,
right?
that's quite a bit of fuel just to keep a fire going. You know.
So, these are things that you need to think about, and that, hey, if I had had the chainsaw and I had planned for that, I could have, like, think of how much 2 gallons of gas can take you with a chainsaw.
Right.
That you go a long way and
Hmm.
could make a big difference. And I'd rather have that than to be able to drive a couple miles. I'd rather be at my homestead and have a chainsaw, or maybe your four-wheeler that hardly burns gas, these
Hmm.
kind of things. Um, but you got to decide what's right. But the more we're outside and doing things, the more we can prepare for the unexpected,
Right.
and the more we can be able to adapt to, I guess training your brain to adapt to different environments and things. And the thing is, by seeing more options and considering different possibilities, it's going to make you a lot more adaptable. You had some other scenarios, didn't you, Kevin? Did you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wanted to touch on something you were talking about is you know, people getting people just giving up, when that sort of stuff happens.
Yes.
So
People
that's
are not mentally prepared.
yeah, that's called doomers, and there are already people out there like that. There's like a bunch of angsty 20-something-year-olds right now that are like, well, global warming is going to kill us all anyway, so why bother doing anything?
All right.
Um,
Good attitude.
there is like a lot of that going on, and I mean, whatever, like angsty 20-somethings aren't new. You know what I mean? They've been around forever, but uh, there's Russian doomers, and that's a big one right now because there's no Russia really doesn't have any spirituality going on. And that kind of devolves into nihilism. It's belief in nothing. Nothing matters because, why do anything? Because nothing matters and ain't going to make any difference and fuck everything anyway. And that is a shitty attitude for surviving things.
It is not going to help you survive.
It's not going to help out at all.
People can spiral down that road. I mean, that's one of the things about like faith and believing in God and that kind of stuff. If you're like, well, I'm just going through the motions and I have no purpose and no, higher something, then it's hard. And why do I keep going? People spiral down this bad road of, you need something to believe in, something to, even if it's just, well, I'm going to make the world a better place for everybody else and make everybody's life easier.
Mm-hmm.
That works. You need some purpose. We all
Right.
need some kind of, or it gets very defeated, very, oh, this is it. And it kind of is hard. That's, you can go down an ugly road.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now let's talk real quick about have you ever heard that phrase strong men make easy times make weak men, and weak men make bad times make strong men.
I
It's
have.
basically it comes from an old philosophy of the four turnings. And basically it's stages of society. So you get the high. So that's basically each one of these supposedly lasts 20 years. It's not a real accurate thing. But the high would be the time right after World War II, say, 50s, 60s. Then the awakening. That was
Wait,
the 70s.
50s, 60s, they had like short skirts and ticker tape parades. There was booze
Yeah, all that
swell.
fun stuff. Everybody was, working 40 hours a week and they all had a car and wife stayed at home and, everybody
Yes.
owned their own
Come back
house.
to that. I
Yep.
choose that one.
Nope. So then the awakening happens. That's, I mean, obviously that you could see that in the United States with, psychedelics and the hippie movement and free love and all that sort of stuff. Um, then the unraveling. So that would be
Jimmy Carter. Wait,
90s, 2010, 2010.
a little
And
further. Okay.
then the crisis would be right where we'd be at right now.
Wait, I did
So
not choose that life. I
did
didn't
you,
want.
yeah, I mean, can you think of any like crises or something you would describe as a crisis happening now? I mean, I can't think of anything
I
that's
don't see
seems like
anything.
it's out of control or going crazy. But I mean, basically, you know, according to this theory, we're on the downswing and things aren't looking great. I would I would not say that that's like a definite, guaranteed thing. It's not like we can't do anything to stop that. But I don't know. It doesn't seem great. Is all I'm
No,
saying.
no, it could be bad. But that's the thing, right? I mean, so you can definitely get like a depressed kind of defeated attitude and be
Mm-hmm.
like, "Oh, it's too hard. I can't do it." Or I have no control anyway. They're just going to tax me or take it away from me. It doesn't matter. They could have what it was the fear. I even, repeated it because it was going around, but where Kamala was talking about taxing unearned gains,
Hmm.
right? Or
Yeah.
Kamala Harris, if you will. And and that was really for like higher income people. It was like if you made
Yeah.
over 400. But when
Yeah.
you
It
start
was over
having
400,000.
yeah, when you start having these ideas and mindsets, then it's like, oh, it's okay. I can just steal from anybody. And that's where people let it get away from 'em. They're like, oh, that's it. They're just going to take my stuff. It doesn't matter what I do.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, I remember right after the Great Depression, FDR started up that uh, the income tax, and people were against it. And everyone's like, stop being so stupid. It's only for really rich people. It's not like they're going to take your money from you.
right,
And here we are 60 years later, and it doesn't matter how little money you make, you're always going to be paying taxes. You can make 9 grand a year and you're still
right.
paying income tax.
Exactly, right? I mean, you're always going to pay. Now, mind you, if you're making 9 grand a year, you're getting some benefits back and things are going to work out for you as far as the tax program and different benefits.
Yeah.
But
If you're making 9 grand a year, you ain't living a nice life though.
no,
You ain't driving a car,
oh,
You're not
Kevin,
living in your own house, that's for sure.
you just got to have a girlfriend with a nice car. Don't you know the
That's
tricks?
that's the trick. Yeah. It's the
That
long
that's
con.
that's
That's the
my
way to
play.
do
I
it.
just I
Hmm.
just married up, I
Yeah.
I found somebody a little bit better than me, and I just went that way, you do
Hmm.
you.
Yeah, she's fat and ugly and nasty all the time, but hey, at least I got a house.
I was just watching one of these other shows, and, you see the feed, and the guy's, like, always interviewing, like, a bunch of stripper girls or something, and he always is like, it like, I don't know, there's always, like I think we lost it for a minute. Maybe. Is it? All right. So the analogy it was always if there's a girl that's or no, sorry, if there's a guy that's 20 years old and a virgin, or a guy that's 40 a virgin, or a guy that's 40, a successful lawyer, but slept with 100 women, which one would the girl want? And all the girls are like, oh, the successful lawyer.
Hmm.
And then he's like, but what if there's a girl that's a 20-year-old virgin, or a girl that's a successful lawyer who's slept with 100 guys? Which one would you want? And everyone's like, the 20-year-old. And I'm like, exactly. It's all perspective, right?
Hmm.
Somehow one has more value. I don't really understand it. I just,
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, this isn't a show for virgins. Get out of here.
no, no, we're trying to find them. We're not trying to,
Uh,
y-
nah,
you know,
that's old news. You gotta have somebody with a little bit of experience. What are you gonna do? Just lay there? Come on.
That's a good point. Kevin, you're a horrible person. We
Yeah,
just
maybe I'm terrible.
you
That's
just
fine. I'm all
gained a
right with that.
subscriber and then just lost a subscriber like that.
Like that.
This is how you do it, Kevin. I don't know. Anyway, but no, so there is you have to kind of see what's coming in the world, and you need to, prepare for the different things. And there is a lot of ugly out there. And there are, I hate to say it, there are forces that are working against freedom and America's success as we know it.
Hmm.
That they're trying to build it into something else. And I'm not saying, oh, well, if you vote Republican, everything will work out. I'm not saying that at all. It's just we need to be aware, but you need to learn how to take care of yours. That's really what our whole channel, the whole podcast, everything is all about, is finding out how to take care of yours and then help out other people along the way. I mean, we wouldn't do this show if it was just about being selfish, right? If it
Hmm.
was really just about, hey, I want to make sure I get mine. well, then why would I put all my information out there and share it with everybody? That wouldn't make any sense. I could just stockpile my money. We're not exactly making money hand over fist with the podcast. That's not exactly how that works.
Yeah.
But you need to, you need to take care of yours. And then if we encourage and motivate other people around us, we can all survive. A rising tide raises all ships, that
Hmm.
kind of thing, or lifts all boats, something. But you get the idea. It's like that. We need to work together and build something better. And it can be awesome. We can have great things, but we got to choose that and we got to focus and build towards that. And I think that's really what it comes down to, Kevin.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of this uh, prepping talk, a lot of that sort of stuff. Um, a lot of people talk about like doing it for themselves, taking
Mhm.
care of themselves and their family and making sure they stay safe. And that's great. That is
Right.
important. But it's also important that you can help out other people. You know, I remember during the first early days of the pandemic, you know, talking to neighbors and stuff and being able to trade with them. You know what I mean? Because you have a good relationship with them. Oh, you short on toilet paper. Oh, you need
Right.
a box of pasta. We can make that happen. If everybody around you is, you know, in a shithole from the situation and you've got a bunch of stuff, well, that's not really helpful for anybody. I mean, it's helpful for you, but they're going to be pissed off when they see your generator running and the lights on in your house and your refrigerator works, and you know, it'll create animosity that's not going to be helpful for anybody. If
Right.
everybody's working together and you can help them out,
That's a
then
different story.
that's a different story
When you're
altogether.
the municipal water supply for your community of 5 houses or whatever,
Hmm.
that's kind of cool.
Right.
Hey, we can work together and get a hose, over to your house and, different things, whatever.
Hmm.
That's pretty awesome. And,
Right.
and that's what we should all be working towards is just making life better. And I got to say, I mean, you can't tell me you don't feel better when you can help people out, you
Right.
know? I don't know. I don't know anybody who doesn't, right?
Hmm.
Who you're not like, oh, I'm able to, hey, you know what? You're really struggling this week. Something bad just happened. Let me help you out. You feel good about yourself, right? And that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
That's a good thing and a good way to be. And I'm just saying, eh, when things always think, it's back to the title is, things are going to be great and they aren't always. But we need to take the steps and prepare, but we need to think about the realities of what's coming in the world. And you see the future. We see that inflation is out of control no matter what, people want to say. I understand that technically there may be less inflation happening right now than there was a couple of months ago or a year ago, but the
Hmm.
idea is it's still going up. It's still getting worse and it's never let off, right? It
Right.
didn't ease up and get better. It didn't go back down. It's just not getting as crappy as fast. That's still crappy.
Hmm.
When your paycheck buys half what it did 5 years ago, I think we're at something like that.
Hmm.
That's pretty crappy. You can buy half your house, the groceries you could get twice as much before. That stuff matters.
Right.
It affects your budget and, nobody's getting the double paycheck from what they were 5 years ago unless you changed, your skills or your lifestyle. You're not getting it cuz your employer's like, "Oh, well, you're doing the same job.
Yeah.
Well,
We
let's
give
bump
you a
you up."
raise because you've
I know things
been here
are
for
hard out
5 years.
there. Yeah.
No, it doesn't happen.
We haven't had, where I am, and I'm a major, Fortune, I guess 200 company you'd call it, but that I work for, and they're not like, oh, we're making money hand over fist. We're gonna just give you some extra. It's not really like that.
Yeah, I
They're
was
like, oh, you don't like your
working with a
job,
guy.
go somewhere else.
Yeah, a guy working for me that was making $20 an hour, or he was making $19 an hour.
Hmm.
Started out that
Hmm.
worked there for about a year. Was hadn't gotten a raise yet, and he saw his job listed, a job for the same company, same position, starting at $21 an hour.
It's like, wait a minute.
Yeah, what the fuck? So
I'm
somebody
already
coming
doing
in
it.
that doesn't have a year experience is going to make more
Yeah.
than me.
Yeah.
And, he made a big stink out of it and they gave him a raise. But they didn't give him a raise just because,
No.
they didn't give him a raise just, but, if he had said nothing and just sat there, he'd still be making $19 an hour.
Right.
Well, the new guy that he's training is making 21.
No, we have new guys coming in and they're getting pretty good deals because we can't find anybody, but they're not offering anybody there,
Hmm.
you know, the big
Right.
money. And you're like, wait a minute, that's not how that works. But I don't know. I'm just saying, you need to learn how to prepare for what is coming. And by that, we need to be paying attention to what's going on in the world around us. And there's a lot going on with inflation. There is a lot going on, looking like World War III kind of things are happening out there too. But it's
Hmm.
like I can't even focus on that because it feels like inflation is such a crushing, thing in our country. And, when we have out of control inflation, and then the solution is we should have price controls. Countries have done this before. Look it
Yeah,
up in
exactly.
history.
Yeah.
Just see what people have done and what happens when you start doing these things. It like spirals with bad decisions.
Hmm.
And for whatever reason, nobody seems to know history or understand what happens, but these happen over and over again. I don't know if you guys remember, but like 6 years ago, there were economists from Harvard and Yale both all going out saying that we can print as much money as we want and there won't be any inflation, and that that's a myth and that it doesn't have to happen. Nobody sees those guys out like apologizing right now.
Right.
No, nobody's like, sorry, drop the ball on that one. Because they were
It's,
like, oh, if we try it like this, it'll be fine.
it'll be
But
different. Yeah, it's going to be different
it was
when we
just
do.
before. And so now they're like, oh, now I don't know if these same guys are talking about price controls, but I know
Hmm.
the politicians are. Oh, well, it's because of the greedy people. That's
Yeah.
why you got screwed. Now, technically, it is because of the greedy people that you got screwed, but it's not the greedy people you think. It's the greedy people in Washington that you got
Right.
screwed,
Right.
that were taking care of their friends. I'm just
Yeah.
saying.
No, and I see that stuff. You see that stuff a lot. It's like the same game. And
Right.
if you don't print more money, but just spend more money, deficit spending, see, that's the trick. Because you don't have to pay that back. You get the benefit of it, and it's your kids' problems. And fuck them, really. Seriously. You know what I
Your
mean?
kids do the work so you don't have to.
That's
Uh-huh,
right. That's
uh-huh.
right. Somebody's gonna have to pay that deficit back down, but it ain't gonna be me.
There you go. So anyway, you guys have ideas, thoughts, concerns, email us at preppingbadass@gmail.com.
If you have
And
stories about cholera or dysentery, let us know.
well, those should be in the comments because people would love to know about your explosive diarrhea.
Right?
Um, Make sure that you like and subscribe. I'm told you know that it's cholera if your diarrhea has a fishy smell. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that makes it grosser.
So just saying. Now, anyway, make sure you like and subscribe. I do appreciate it. Appreciate you guys sticking around. And, hey, make sure you're downloading the podcast and checking it out. We'd love to be with you wherever you go. So, with that, stay safe and we will talk to you guys next week.